Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. I'm Mark Goldbridge and we're talking VAR as the plot thickens. Michael Oliver now subject of a police investigation, not because of what he did. Some people would say he probably should get one. But on a serious note, police investigation because of unacceptable and vile threats made towards him and his family. Where are we with it this morning? I said yesterday morning that Sky were reporting that PGMOL were not happy with some sensationalist response from ex-players, etc. And it was inevitable there was going to be some dilution of the feeling because the PGMOL needed to do a bit of PR to calm things down, which is what their tactic always is. We've even had people saying that these statement around Michael Oliver and the police investigation is very convenient for the PGMOL because they can now sweep the incident under the carpet and just shout about the unacceptable behaviour. I don't know about that. I think what I would say is that there are two distinctive things going on here. And the second thing is the appalling decision at the weekend that we await an apology, an explanation from the PGMOL, and that should stay on the front page and should not be swept under the carpet. However, the cynic in me does agree with some people saying that, the PGMOL will shout and scream about the abuse and will do nothing again about the reason for that, which is their horrific running of Premier League football over the last 2 years. But let's be fair. We are football fans. We are not here to make it personal, and we shouldn't be doing that. And we should, whilst having a very strong opinion, and we will have a strong opinion, we should also not allow ourselves to be the villains in this piece. Those people who take things like Saturday or other refereeing decisions and decide to make it physical, threats of physical violence, abuse, family members, it's not acceptable. That is an education point that I think most of us understand, but even in the heat of the moment, you shouldn't be doing that. That defeats your purpose. The frustration, we all feel it with the way the game is going, but it should never descend into that because you do lose the argument. I remember after the Euro final, when I wanted to talk about how Gareth Southgate had messed up our biggest chance of silverware in my lifetime when you're 1-0 up against Italy in a final at Wembley, your home ground, and you lose it. I wanted to lose it at Gareth Southgate, digesting how he bottled a final. That conversation never happened because people took their frustration and were racist towards people like Saka, Rashford and Sancho. And that conversation about why we lost quite rightly disappears under the vile abuse of players that should never happen. And we have to be careful in this case as well, because some people have took it to an extent where the police are now involved and the PGMOL are putting out statements about being appalled by the threats and abuse directed at Michael Oliver. Quite rightly so, to defend Michael Oliver as an employee of the PGMOL. But that's something separate. Let that be investigated, and hopefully the people who've done that are brought to justice. Now, let's get back to the statement from the PGMOL about the appalling behaviour of them over the last 2 years and why they're ruining the game of football. Because if we don't get any of that, then people are every right to say that separate appalling issue that's being investigated has got nothing to do with the way you are running the game and how you're going to respond to it. In fact, it probably does. Would Michael Oliver be getting that abuse if VAR and the PGMOL were doing their job properly and holding him accountable for the numerous bad decisions he's made? Maybe that's fair, maybe that's not fair. But the bottom line is that here we are on a Monday morning and many people are very angry and frustrated with this organisation, and they're screaming and shouting about the abuse of one of their employees, but that's being dealt with by the police. Now, back to the real thing, Mr. Howard Webb. Stop ringing up your mates in the media and start actually doing your job, because I think Howard Webb should be sacked. There you go. There's a line. I think Howard Webb should be sacked. I think he's absolutely, as the head of the organisation, responsible. And if you want to protect your referees from scrutiny and sensationalist response from ex-players and fans, then you should do your job. And if you can't do your job, then football fans can suggest how you should do your job. But what you cannot and should not do is run your organisation in a dictatorship, arrogant way where every week they're making appalling decisions, and your tactic is to wait a few weeks, do a little bit of a video with Michael Owen where you never actually concede that you get things wrong and do anything about it anyway. And secondly, you sweep it under the carpet and we wait for another bad decision. And the thing is that, I agree. Michael Oliver is only a human being, and there'll be another one next week, worse than that. And it might cost somebody the title, and it might get somebody relegated. We're very fortunate that all these bad decisions that keep happening haven't actually directly relegated or cost a title yet. It's only a matter of time. You constantly are jumping off the cliff edge with this football and these decisions. And at some point, it's going to have a huge impact on the outcome of something very, very important. I mean, Arsenal still won on Saturday, and they're still fuming by it. Imagine if they'd lost. Very lucky that didn't happen, and fair play to Arsenal for winning with 10 men. The thing is, and it's hard not to get frustrated even now, is because it's that feeling of helplessness that football fans have. They pay their money, they watch the game they love, and it is being, jeopardized and poisoned by the inability to do things that are very, very obvious. Human error is absolutely fine. But human error with the protection of VAR is absolutely inexcusable. And without repeating what was said about Saturday, that is an apology from the PGMOL and a review. It's as simple as that. You don't need to sack Michael Oliver. He can hide behind the fact that he only saw it once and it's human error. But VAR can't. They've got the angles, they've got the replays, and why did they? That's the big question for me. Michael Oliver's got a list of strange decisions that he's made, both on field and VAR. I mean, he was the guy that got involved in the Man United penalty for West Ham that everyone thought wasn't a penalty. So he can do it on the pitch and off the pitch. He obviously has a very distinctive way of watching football matches, so much so that he'll contradict himself in the same game. But he can be dealt with by Howard Webb if he wants to, or he can be dealt with by VAR, who are like, we know Michael Oliver makes weird decisions at times. It's our job to make sure that we protect him from those decisions and point him in the right direction. And that's what VAR is there to do. And it is failing at that. So look, has it gone too far in relation to what's happening? Yes, it has gone too far. But I'm not talking about the abuse and that the police will deal with that. It's gone too far in relation to how the PGMOL are running the Premier League, and something needs to be done. There should be an independent regulator who is running a review on that organisation, because to me, they're a law unto themselves. How can you have an organisation that is meant to be about the integrity and fairness of the game, but there is no integrity and fairness coming from that organisation? Where's the accountability? Where's the independent review? Why aren't people being sacked? Like, it's that bad now. And it just seems to me that it's dealt with like it's a laugh. It doesn't really matter. We go again. It's screaming out loud. And I don't know whether they'll listen, but it's screaming out loud. We're never going to have a shortage of referees, by the way. When Carragher says, I'm worried about the future of refereeing. Mate, do you watch football away from the Premier League? I watch amateur football every weekend. There is never a problem for a referee getting a referee, whether it's youth football or that. There is problems with the way some parents on the sidelines and people and players shout at them, and that's not acceptable. But people will always want to do this, and they'll want to do it more if people like Howard Webb professionalises the industry. The way to counter the negativity towards referees is for them to be... Look, Kalina was on the front of Pro Evo, the computer game. He was that respected. There is a pathway to respect for referees, and it is to do your job properly and to do it well. And VAR should be allowing them to do that. So that when you're a referee and you see that Lewis Skelly thing and you see whatever you saw and you give a red card, VAR says to you, we don't think it's a red card, can you have a look at it? And then you run over and you look at it and you go, yeah, that's not what I saw, I was wrong. Red, it's a yellow. You get applauded for it. And people would go, you know what, that VAR was brilliant in that game. And Arsenal fans would be going, that was really good. And even Michael Oliver overturned it. That's how you get respect for referees. You don't get respect for referees by ignoring mistakes on Saturday and shouting about, we had to go to the police, it's unacceptable. Of course it's unacceptable. Of course it's unacceptable. But you wouldn't be going to the police if your referees were doing their job properly. People aren't giving abuse to Michael Oliver just because they feel like it. They're doing it because they're idiots, but also they're doing it because of what happened on Saturday. The most obvious thing Howard Webb could do, and, you know, I'm not sat here as Alan Sugar or Gary Neville, you know, Mr. Business Dragon's Den. I'm sitting here as somebody who's looking at a problem and coming up with a solution. And I've said it for 18 months. Separate your referees and VAR. Break the relationship. None of this Ollie, tails, mate stuff. If you're a referee, your job is to professionally be a referee on the pitch. And if you're a VAR, you're in the VAR room. You don't get on. You don't communicate. In fact, I don't want you to communicate because I don't want any familiarity. When I'm listening to the audio, I want to hear professionalism. I don't want to hear, hold on a minute, Ols. Hold on a minute, Tails. We're just going to look at the... No, I want to say, thanks, referee. In fact, I want VAR to be the authority. I want the referee to have respect, but I want the referee to be saying, I've given the red card because this is what I saw. And then they'll go, thank you. Okay, we're going to take a look now. And then there's silence. There's no talking about anything like that. And then they come back and go, okay, we've reviewed it. We're sticking with your decision because of this. Or we reviewed it and we actually don't think it's a red card from what we've seen. We'd appreciate if you went and had a look at the camera and then you make the final call. And why is that not the most obvious solution? From next Premier League season, the VAR will be completely separate to the officials. The officials will do all the refereeing and the linesmen's, and the VAR will be a separate organisation. They don't communicate with each other. They don't socialise with each other. They don't train together. And you will hear it in the audio from next season how professional it is because we want to get it right. And you've just solved a massive problem because every audio I hear, it's familiarity and mates, and that leads to problems. If I'm working with mates and we get something wrong, my instant reaction is, I want to help my mate out. If I'm working with somebody I don't know in a professional environment and a mistake is made, my instant reaction is, let's get it right. Because there's no personal relationship. How is it that that is so obvious, but it won't happen? Get your comments in below. Smash a like. What are your thoughts on this? Look, it's getting serious now. It is getting serious, but I think there are two conversations. There is the unacceptable behaviour and there is the actual thing that happened, and they need to be separated and dealt with. And it looks to me like the PGMOL are just focusing on that so they don't have to focus on that. And that absolutely has to change. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you on the next one.